I am so glad to hear about how well you've done over the last 5 years. And I have to tell you, I have to share a story with you about my church. I know the last time that we talked, there were a lot of question marks 5 years ago. I mean, it's hard. Do you remember COVID? It was crazy, right? A year and a half, we could do nothing. But you know what happened is during COVID, we learned that maybe we have some priorities that are not quite important. And it was a time where we really reflected upon our personal lives, our family lives, our education, our retirement homes, and even our churches. One of the things that we discovered 5 years ago was that the church wasn't a building. I mean, yeah, I preached about it. I've preached about it a million times over. We knew with our heads, but when we couldn't actually meet in a building, we learned it with our hearts. I have to tell you, my congregation was amazing. I mean, they were there every Sunday on that live stream. No matter where they were joining us. And it was so encouraging to me and the rest of the church. And amazingly, somehow we even grew during COVID. I don't know how that happened, but when it was all done, we had like 15 new people in the church. It was amazing. And somehow we even actually came close to balancing our budget. I don't know. I just knew God was good. God provides. He really does. We look to him in faith. I learned that 5 years ago. Now, something really cool happened during that time. We as a session had the opportunity to sit down and really talk about what the church should be. And we brought that vision to the congregation. It was a little bit rough at first, try to get them to get a sense of it, but eventually most of them bought in. And so it was pretty cool to go through that process with them. We started this New Beginnings course. It was this course, you've heard of it, the Presbyterian Church brings in basically consultants, and you form small groups, and you really lay a foundation for the future. It's called New Beginnings for a reason. We basically reinvented ourselves. And we really focus on what was important as a church. And one of the things that we found, and this was really, really painful, was that the building wasn't serving our needs. And that was rough. That was tough. A lot of people had been married in that building. A lot of people had been buried in that building. A lot of baptisms. I mean, that was a place of refuge for years. But we looked and we said, we need $500,000 to get this thing even up to code. We knew we couldn't keep funding the building. Because COVID taught us that there are a lot of hurting people out there, and we need to get out to where they are. And it taught us that we had the technology to do that too, which is pretty cool. So we formed a team to kind of go around the building and assess our assets, and basically we sold anything that was of value that we weren't using. And then we sold the building. That was a tough day, I'll have to tell you. It was a tough day. But we knew that God was with us. We knew that if we could worship in our car, in our kitchens, heck, in our bathrooms, let's be honest, we knew that we could worship in a building that wasn't the corner of First and Hugo. And we did. We formed a team that found a great location. Contemporary, modern, right in the heart of the community. And that's what we wanted, to be the heart of the community. This place had a stage set up and all the tech and everything that we needed. And you know what we found? That some people just weren't comfortable coming into a church building, but they were comfortable going into this public space. And so that's what we did. And we gained a bunch of people right off the bat who were curious. Some of them faded away after a few weeks. Many of them stuck around. I'm not going to say that the growth was exponential, but it was there. It was slow, and it was well earned. And the people that are there 5 years later, they have a good understanding of what it means to be a disciple of Christ. A good understanding of what fellowship is all about, what worship is all about. Well, we had some challenges, of course. First of all, we had this amazing soup kitchen that had been around like 3/4 of my life, so we couldn't let that go. It took a little bit of work, but we found a place that was warm and inviting and accepting of our soup kitchen, a place where they could continue that ministry. In fact, let's be honest, it was a little bit nicer than the old falling down gym that they were in before. And we had people who wanted to meet in small groups. Well, where do you do that now? We simply met in people's homes or in coffee shops. And one rebellious group even met in a bar every other Wednesday night. And that small group had an amazing ministry, let me tell you. It's now 3 new small groups. We figured out how to do things a little bit differently. But leaving our comfort zone forced us to do it and to be in the community. We had no choice. We decided that we wanted to be involved in just about every event the town was hosting if we could. We were in the Santa Claus parade. You should have seen our band rocking in the back of my pickup truck in the Santa Claus parade. We were at the Christmas tree lighting. We were at the Butter Tart Festival. We were at Canada Day. We were everywhere, letting people know that we are part of the community, that Jesus is part of this community. And I'm not going to say that people flooded in because of this, but slowly over time, we began to change people's ideas of what it means to be a Christian. Because, you and I both know that people see a lot of Christians on TV, and it is very rarely flattering. But for people to see authentic, real, broken, sinful people doing their best to lean into God's leading, to follow His direction, to love as He loved, well, that earned us a voice in the community with many people. We lived out our relationship with Christ wherever we were. We just simply brought Jesus with us. We didn't rely on coming to a building once a week or twice a week for an hour. We had no choice, but it was the best choice we could have made. I'm so excited to see how God has led us over these last 5 years, not just because we can now free up all that money we used to spend on repairs and maintenance and snow clearing and all of that and pour that into missions and ministry, not just because of that, but because every single person in my church has given up something to follow the will of God. And God has blessed that sacrifice. After all, if the salvation of the world was won on the cross, the world's greatest sacrifice, then why can't God use our sacrifices to change the world? I think He can. I think He did. And I think He will. So I just have to say, God has been with us these last 5 years, and I can't wait to see what He does in the next 5.